Jay coming at you with another video. This video is going to be regarding the DEX and the YCS events and a lot of the different events that have been going on in London and LA. There's been some in Texas. I think there was recently one in Cuba, which I think it was funny because Dark Magician topped one of the regionals there on the YCS. I believe it was in Cuba. That was pretty funny. Then you had some in Rio de Janeiro going on, and I'm sure there's still other events going on as we speak, but also for the past 2-3 weeks, something like that. It's been a period of roughly 2 to 3 weeks. And like I said, even as we speak, some other events going on as well. And I wanted to go over some of the decks. So these decks are not necessarily in order, but however, this one is, because this one's one of the weaker ones. And I kept saying that the branded Despia, it was one of the weaker decks, and there was a lot of people hating because branded or Despia, branded Despia is the same thing. You have the branded spell. I mean, without the branded spell, the deck is dead. So basically, this deck, all it does is it brings fusion monsters. So if you can stop the fusion monsters, the deck's dead. Almost all the floodgates kill the deck too. So obviously, the deck's going to be using either spells, for the most part, spells to pop your back row. If you can stop the spells, then they're done. So yeah, if even like me, when I play against the deck, I usually put 3 to 4 negates, and the floodgates, it'll be just one, but I'll concentrate more on the negation. So they'll play a monster to get like an effect. I'll end up negating it, and then they'll try to play like a branded, negate that, and then they try to bring like a spellcaster or something. I just banish it with Dark Magician and Circle, and then I just have to deal with one more, and then that's it. They just die out. In some of the duels where I have with this deck, where they can just bring out, they can easily OTK, they can bring out 5 monsters, 5 fusion monsters, and just hit you with like 15 to 18,000. I posted some of the duels with some of the undefeated and some of the decks that I've gotten on the top 8. And as you've been seeing the weeks go by, the deck is getting pushed out because it plays too many spells and too many fusions. It's really easy to murder. But I already know that because my channel is purely Dark Magician, I don't do anything else. I already know that out of all these decks, I already know there is no existing channel on YouTube that can beat them all. But I do have a profile that I can prove that's beaten all these decks, all of them. And that's the AC-130. There's 3 versions of it. There's a basic, and then there's a top tier, and then there's a tier that I created so I can beat, I can go against the top 8, like the nationals and the regionals, and I beat all of these decks. So yeah, this deck is the easiest to beat, and then also everyone else in the world, in the YCS world, like the whole planet Earth, they agree too, because this deck is being pushed out of the 8. It's no longer in the 8th place. It's not popping up anymore. It's getting kicked out. It's like 10th place, 12th places. Just like I said, I knew this deck wasn't good enough. So as they print out more cards for it, more support, it'll start becoming more and more powerful. But as of right now, it's not good enough. It's really, really powerful. Actually, it's like a tier 1 style. But I mean, if you know how to play your deck, and then also the world's gotten used to it already, just stop the fusions or floodgate or just negate monsters, and then that's why I got kicked out. It's too weak now. But a lot of people argue it's the best. I have a lot of duels against branded Despia, and you can see me always win against them. They just play a bunch of stuff and none of it matters. And that's what happens to everybody else too. They just stop them and they don't make it to the top 8. They got kicked out of the ranking. So this is the weakest. And then we're gonna be moving to the Runic. So for like, what is it, like the last two months or so, I've been telling people that Runic was going to be going up and up the ranks. There's a lot of variations of the Runic, and some of them are so powerful that it stays in the top 4, either regionals or nationals. It's pretty strong, and I told people that this deck is really powerful, but they don't want to believe me. A lot of Dark Magician players, if not all, go to their channels, all the Dark Magician channels on YouTube. I know there's millions of them. None of them have any duels that can defeat this specific deck. And this deck, just like the Despia, they can bring spellcasters, so they'll override the village. So there's nothing you can do. But a lot of people just trust on the Dragoon and the village. They'll just kaiju. But there's a lot of easy ways to get rid of Dragoon. He's trash anyways. And yeah, and they'll override the village. and they just play all their spells. They just banish all your cards from the top of your deck, and they just negate a bunch of stuff. They can play the spells from their hands. This deck is all about spells. So if you can stop the spells, you kill the deck. But the deck has so many ways to in and out of a lot of situations. And like I said, there's a lot of variants. I know of 4 different kinds, and they always top 4 at events. This deck's very powerful, and it doesn't matter what people's opinion is, what they think. The facts are this deck is just always there in the top 4. It's very powerful. I know Dark Magician players struggle to beat it. I beat this deck all the time with the AC 130. There's a specific sequence you play with it, and they just surrender. There's nothing they can do. And then this one I would say is number 2. Second place. This one's the Sprite. So the variation of these decks, there's just so many. There's the, I believe it's either the Malfi, the Malfi with the Sprite, and there's a lot of other variations, and all that's happening is just a bunch of special summonings like crazy. By the time you notice, they have way too many negations and interruptions, like 6, 7, or even more. There's basically nothing you can do. There's a reason why this deck gets a lot of second place and first place because of that. Like if you don't have 4 negations or more against the deck, you're done. And the deck has so many ways and outs to a lot of cards. Even if you try to block it, or it's just not affected. Even hand traps don't affect it. There's too much going on, too many combos. The deck's pretty powerful. Pretty powerful. I mean, everybody knows the deck is powerful, but it feels like it hasn't lost the power because people are starting to fuse it with all sorts of other decks. So I would definitely say this is second place. It's very powerful. I've beat this deck, but I'm not gonna lie, this deck gives me like a 50% challenge. Like I can stop 4 negates and they're still going to establish 2 to 3 negates, even though I stop 4 of their cards. It's pretty powerful. It's a challenge with the AC 130, but I have it on my channel beat all the variations, even the first place winner at one of the regionals, the recent regionals, and it's pretty powerful. And we're gonna be moving on to Labyrinth. So here's the deck that you don't hear a lot of people talking about, especially Dark Magician players. But I mean, overall, a lot of people don't talk about Labyrinth. But Labyrinth is finding its way to staying in the top 8 always. And some of the times getting second place. Like there was an event in LA and I think it did second place, and I've seen it top at some of the events. There's a lot of variations of it, but there's one specific variation where the deck is so powerful. I think it might have been the one that got the first place. I don't remember where it got it, but there was a variation that got first place recently, like in the last 7 days. And then there was another variation 3 days ago. I believe there was one, like I was saying, in Vegas that got second place, and they have similar builds. So what this deck does, they actually incorporate some of the Flundereeze cards to they tribute cards, and they are able to send cards to from the field to the graveyard. Then on top of that, all of their monsters special summon, and then they play like Eldritch. They set all 5 traps, and basically there's nothing you could do. If you can do something, then tell me, and we'll go to your channel and see it. I already know for certain, like 90% sure. The reason why I leave a gap is because I can beat this deck. It's nothing to my AC 130, but I already know Dark Magician players can beat these decks, because the number 1 best deck for Dark Magician according to the world is the Dark Magician Turbo with the 3 Dragoon. The 3 Dragoon is trash to all these decks. He's basically like you never played it. That's the reason why Dark Magician doesn't never make it far, because Dark Magician players are stuck that Dragoon is the one that wins, but Dragoon's trash. You have to have ins and outs of everything, not just one boss monster. I think that's why the AC 130 does so well, because we have so many variants. Even with no Dragoon, we can still win a duel. And Dragoon is just the cherry on the top. But this deck, like I said, very trap heavy, very nasty. It can even pop the skill drain. It can pop anything. As long as it's a card in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's not a problem for it. This deck was able to get rid of the Dragonite and the Dragoon. I think 2 Dragoon and a Dragonite in the same duel that I played it. And I actually handicapped myself to prove how powerful the AC 130 is. And I took out all the Illusion of Chaos, and I took out all the Magician Souls. And the guy was playing me with like a tier 1 style Labyrinth, and I still won. I recorded it and I posted it. I guarantee you 100% there's no one in the planet Earth that plays Dark Magician that can beat this deck with no Illusion of Chaos and no Magician Souls other than my AC 130. I played it with a hyper budget version of my AC 130 because there's 3 versions of it. And the weakest super handicap, I still beat this deck. And in case you think that I paid the guy to lose or was rigged, pay attention to the duel. The guy's popping everything. He pops. I'm top decking, and I still beat this deck. If you don't believe me, comment down below. I'll show you the duel. This deck is really, really broken. I'm not surprised if there is no Dark Magician players that can beat this deck. It's really powerful. This deck is the Math Mix. Now, a lot of people don't talk about Math Mix much, but let me tell you, this deck is broken. They can special summon 19 to 20 monsters in the first turn or whatever turn they want to, and they just XYZ like crazy. And they can bring the synchros, and there's a lot of effects, man. They can send cards from your field together with your hand to the graveyard. It's nasty. And the deck, it's pretty broken. It's pretty broken. I dueled the most powerful versions, like tier 1s. I've never seen tier 0, but I dueled some tier 1s, and let me tell you, man, they were broken. They got rid of 3 of my Dragoon, 1 Dragon Knight. They got rid of my whole field. Pretty broken deck. I still managed to pull the win against these decks. I think I dueled against 3 of them. And I can say for myself, they're really, really broken, really powerful. Another deck that I think Dark Magician players are struggling to beat because they won't get out of the noose in their neck that they're hanging the deck. They're hanging the deck as a dead man, the deck, because they believe that Dragoon's the answer. He's not the answer. He's supposed to be there to help, not to win. And yeah, this deck is gives you a run for your money if you don't know how to out it, or you don't know how to play it, or if you don't have enough negations or interruptions. And here's a deck that I know for certain no Dark Magician players can beat. So there's 3 variations of it. One of them is the Naturia. I think it's with the Melfi or the Pearly, one of them. But all it does is just special summoning like crazy, and it can enter, even if they want, 3 Naturia Beasts. And they can also enter into the other synchro, the one for the traps. And a lot of people on the Dark Magician channels don't even tell you this. They won't even mention this deck. You will live and die. You will never even see a duel of a Dark Magician against this deck. This deck, turn 1, can shut off all your spells. And then there's another variation of the Naturia with the with the Runic. So it's milling all your cards plus all your spells. They're negating. Me with the Sam, they said that the profile was from the Sam's channel, and that one got top 32, I think, or 30 YCS event. And it's basically the same profile but piloted by different people, and the deck made it all the way to like top 8 or top 4. It's a really broken deck. Like I said, if you play spells, you're dead. If you play traps, you're also dead. And then they're milling all your monsters, they're negating it. Guarantee you, there's no existing Dark Magician channel or Dark Magician player that can beat this deck. I already know. The AC-130 clowns this deck like nothing. And then the last one here is the Kashtira, so it's nothing new. It's nothing special, everybody already knows. So this deck claps everybody up. It doesn't matter what they are. I was saying from the beginning that this deck was going to be number 1, and there was people saying that no, they disagreed, it wasn't powerful. And now where are they? And I don't know if I'm the only channel that has this deck murdered. All the versions of it. All the versions. They shut down all your zones of monsters, your traps. And then they play on both turns, your turn and their turn. It's hell. This deck's nasty. I told you guys. It banishes everything. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go find yourself a Kashtira deck and go play it. The deck, these guys started incorporating into their deck the Book of Eclipse too, because it's being played against them, so they also play it. So when you get too saucy against them, like my brother, what's his name, DC says, yeah, they just hit you with the book cards, and they just flip all your stuff face down, man. It's not fun, and they banish everything. So in order to beat this deck, you gotta be ready to have a bunch of negations, and they're gonna be popping the back row. You're gonna be popping your monsters and banishing. You gotta be ready for hell. And yeah, this deck, I clown on this deck. When I go first, when you go second, you have to definitely alter the deck, because this is pretty much the end of the video. But there is some of these decks that are tier 1 or tier 0. They're so powerful, there's no way you can beat them unless you really know how to side deck. So for this one, going first, I clap it up easy. They get mad. Going second is when you have to pull all the stunts and you have to pick your cards right. Usually I'll put like evenly matched, and I'll put the Book of Eclipse, And then there's a bunch of other cards that I put. Like sometimes I put the Raw, the Wind Dragon Raw, the Skier mode, and I just boom, I just summon it. I get rid of the 3, and I already know the field is open. After that, I'll either pop the back, or I'll go into chain to draw 50% of my deck. I'll establish 4-5 negates. They surrender. Even if I don't get to go through all that, I'll just at the very end, I'll just go ahead and chain off to evenly match with the field empty, and that's it. You get them. But they're gonna be negating a lot. Before you do that, they're gonna negate 2 to 3 cards. The only other way, like I said, is just to tribute them all at once and then get past that and then just keep going. But you're not just gonna win it. A lot of people don't understand. You're not gonna win against these decks, tier 1 and tier 0, with a Dragoon Turbo. That deck's trash. A lot of people don't realize that deck is actually rogue. A lot of people think they're playing a top tier deck. You're not. You're playing a rogue deck. You gotta switch out of the Dragoon. Dragoon should be a cherry on the top, not the main deck. That's why people are struggling. I guarantee you, all of these decks, all topping 8 or topping 4 consistently, except for the Despia, that one gets kicked out. But even if you want to include it, and this channel, Dark Mission AC 130, sometimes I use the weakest variation, the basic, sometimes I use the top tier, and then sometimes I use the one that's purposely made for YCS decks. And all of the variations, they can beat these decks, all of these decks. And I have the proof on my channel, guaranteed 100%. There is no existing Dark Mission channel that can beat these decks all. Guaranteed, because they play spells and they negate your spells. A lot of these decks negate everything. I've dueled against decks, like one deck. The deck says you can't special summon, you can't play spells, and you can't play traps. And the question is, how do you beat the deck? On my channel, you see me beat them with my Dark Magician AC 130 deck. There's a lot of sequences and a lot of plays that guys are missing on playing on Dark Magician. And congratulations to Loza for taking out a lot of the hand traps, as I have been telling them, and the Dark Magician community since 2019. You can put them in the deck going second, but going first, you have to go deep in the deck and establish a bunch of negations and interruptions. If you want to make it, you have to do at least 4, like I said on my previous channel. Anything under that, you're not going to make it. Fix your deck. I make it to where I normal, they Ash, it doesn't matter. Special Summon Magician Souls, activate effect, they Ash, it doesn't matter. Link. Then when I link, they're usually already burned their negations. They're already 2 cards down. Then I'll just climb up into the Crawly. Then I'll go into the deck, and the rest of my cards, they're all draw. So I'll draw 15 cards plus the 5, I'm close to 20. From there, I'll enter Dragoon, Dragonite, establish 2 Floodgates, Circle, and Eternal. And usually with those cards, I'll even draw a Bestial, the Bestial engine. So I'm set. They're 2 cards down, I already have 4 or 5 negates. All the cards they have, I'm negating them all. That's how I beat these decks. It's not easy, but the AC 130 does wonders. And like I said, there's 3 variations of it. I play all 3, I know all 3. And I have been asked, I gotta end the video right now, but I have been asked, like, what's the difference between going to second and first? How come I never show my extra? Why should I? Everybody's regionals and nationals and locals is different. Everybody plays what they want, but obviously I play what everybody is playing regarding going second. You're gonna have to side deck correctly to play broken cards. Sometimes I don't play, like I said, the special summon, just the regular tribute. Like the steer mode, I've been also testing with what is it? Something Forest? I forgot what it's called. Something Forest is the field spell. Monsters that attack get destroyed. And then I have also been experimenting with the Graveyard of the Ancient, what is it called? Ancient Organism. The one that says level 6 and higher can't attack or activate. It's a Mystic Mine, but the lower levels, they can still activate their effects. And that's gonna be pretty much it. I know there's 2 or 3 decks I didn't include, but that's because I didn't really care about them anyways. But these are pretty much the broken decks. Hopefully you liked the video. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know. Dark Magic Attack.